So first of all, to everyone, tashi dele. I hope that you are well and I hope that you are happy. So I would like to explain why all of us need to have a brave mind, a courageous mind to be able to pursue our goals. And I want to explain the reason why we can have a courageous mind, because we possess this human rebirth and intelligence. So all of us, what we have to do is we have to recognize and increase the power or the positive potential within ourselves. It's not like we can sit back and do nothing, because of course the afflictions and the imprints left behind the afflictions are also in our continuum. But there are many people who, recognizing the preciousness of their human rebirth and their human brain or mind, they think that because of this, I definitely can do that. And in that way, they are able to bring forth a courageous attitude and progress successfully.
So Geshe is sharing a story about a great Lama from Tibet who would actually have discussions with himself, and he would say to these afflictions, if you back off and relax, then I'll relax. But if you start to get strong and aggressive, then I will counter you aggressively. Like this, we can see that actually this is a very great piece of advice, and it is also something that will be able to help us bring forth a brave or courageous outlook. So the advice that Geshe will share from the shloka or the verse today is something that is very important to keep in mind, and we want to put that advice into practice, and in that way we can take those positive potentials and we can ripen them, strengthen them. And so today we will be sharing some instructions from the mind training teachings or the Lojong, and the root of these Lojong teachings, indeed one of the supreme commentaries on the Buddha's instructions, is what is known as the Way of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra by Shantideva, and this is something that is seen as a great text regardless of any lineage you may be. And there is one verse in particular that Geshe will share today, and this has a very, very important piece of advice. So Geshe is sharing this verse from the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra. He shared it in Tibetan. I will read it in English. All these branch practices were taught by the Mighty One for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. So there are two approaches potentially to explaining this shloka, this verse. One is the very vast way, which is kind of taking a more complex and all-encompassing approach, and another way is an easier way, which is just very briefly to relate the meaning. And so this will be the second of these. So So the first thing to mention here, which is very important, is the 6 perfections, or the 6 paramitas. These are something that are absolutely essential for us to keep in mind. And in fact, it is said that when we are trying to reduce the stains of the adventitious defilements, of the afflictions that can be removed, this is the main practice, the 6 paramitas through which one ripens one's own continuum.
Ota telpa jawa ina ngelatani jumba tsutra zewa sendi sote sena ani ngate ani momoke chi chawa che teji kanga lolo tani tsorebe sena tsote mares wa ani teji kanga lolo yelo na wati che teji kanga lolo kecha mo shabate tsote ani tupa shira ngine de ya shibi tendi ina wa tendi sena wo. And
an easy way to understand this is what the verse is saying is that in terms of those 6 perfections, right? In terms of the first 5, so generosity, ethics, patience, effort, and concentration, these are the first 5 of the 6th. But are they the main ones? No, they are not the main ones. They are like the branch of the 6th or final practice. And that final one, the most important of the 6 is the practice of wisdom. And all of the other ones are aimed, connected to generating that wisdom. And so that is summarizing it in an easy way, that in a way that is easy to understand and that can give us something to think about. So Geshe is also saying that in terms of this word wisdom, right, we can talk about different imports in terms of its meaning. So we could say that in those instances when we were practicing, we chose to practice generosity, we chose to practice ethics, patience, concentration, and so forth, that there was the wisdom of those practices. But that is not the wisdom in the sense of the 6th perfection that we were talking about. So here within these many types of wisdom, what type of wisdom are we talking about? We are talking about the wisdom that is able to penetrate the ultimate mode of abiding of any phenomenon, the way any phenomenon really is, to use colloquial terms. So if we say, okay, well, if we want to explore the reasons a little bit, we say, but there is a wisdom, right? There's a wisdom that comes with generating generosity, with ethics, with concentration, with patience, and so forth. So why do we need to generate some sort of extra wisdom? Or what is that extra wisdom like? Well, the reason we say this, that we need to bring forth this extra wisdom, which is the 6th, is because, yes, there is a wisdom that is giving rise to the practices of generosity, ethics, patience, concentration, and wisdom, but patience and concentration. But those wisdoms connected with those 5, they are only the wisdom that is an antidote to one particular affliction. So, for example, patience with anger, and then the antidotes for miserliness, for laziness, and so forth. They are not the type of wisdoms that is the final wisdom, which is necessary to address the ignorance grasping at the self, which is the root of all of the afflictions.
카시 매바 지내라 예로 매바서 어디 배도면 와스 강에 자와 들라 돼서나 강에 가디는 걸 제전을 되려야스.
So we can look at the example of a tree. So if you were to look at the tree above here and you were to think that each of those fruits is one of these afflictions or one of these problems, we know that if you were to pluck the fruit or even if you were to cut the branches, it wouldn't be able to prevent those problems from arising again. The only thing that you can really do is you have to get rid of the root of the tree with the fruits and the branches.
어따치 우만이들 tani 레와디와스 데이시나 둥아타 쇼안데 비시라시 시타마니들 따다 둥아가 짜와코라 메바시에서는 둥아가 사면로
So that's what these last two lines are expressing, and what a wonderful thing. Therefore, those who wish to pacify suffering should generate this wisdom. If we want to get rid of suffering, we get rid of the root of the problem with wisdom.
어떤 저기도 와서 어떤 노진행 안도 깨쳐 먹으시기 와래 어떤 강에 매봐서도 마서 기본기내는 로도 만도 연다 라팔 요다 만도 스와 허스 스치 라팔 소소 라팔이 와래 사대오 내가 첨부지 와래.
So this is very much also related to our outlook that whether we are able to whether we experience problems or not, whether we experience happiness or not, these are things that are actually not in the hands of others, not the responsibility of others. These are things that depend on us. They're in our hands.
나로서 논내를 거기 다래 킹할 내바시근도 소소 논에 말이 파티가 아니 다 드니가 노한다 만다 지금 용거를 하마도 단니네 대실로 문디와스 어떤 단니네 용하시게데 소소 논을 이자 아니 소소 논이 쓰시는 시라 제토가 시그 그래스.
So when we encounter a problem with someone, for example our enemy, we say that he harmed me, she harmed me, inconvenienced me, and so on, but we understand that it is just the appearance due to ignorance which makes it seem like that person is the problem. In fact, the problem is not something that is outside ourselves. The problem is something that is within us. And what we need to do is we need to generate wisdom to be able to get to the root of that inner problem.
됐더니 소소소 디세야 와요바 요비깔은 누구야 거지 아니 디세시라 메비깔은 파신 로비깔이네 가디이나 제고 레라오고 tune 제가 거가 뭐요.
So it is very important when we have the time, when we have the free time to engage in analytical meditation, on emptiness as much as possible. But when we don't have time, right, when we are busy, we can at least contemplate a little bit of analysis on emptiness, do a little bit of analytical meditation in that free time.
저 소소가 세티가 손세트 간디지도 헬레도도 딜레차워 지근도 노아 샤요고도 다저 던디 돈에 알레.
So in the beginning we want to see what is happening with our mind. That is the beginning step. Is our mind relaxed? Is our mind busy? What kind of appearances are arising that are leading to the character of the mind? So that's the first step. So we have to think, if our body cannot keep up with what we want to do, is there really any benefit from being busy all the time in our mind or not, having this very sort of busy attitude? Even just thinking in that sort of simple way can lead to us being more relaxed.
아니 콘트롤 레비칼 노아노지 따탄데 도문이 시카리나 코로게 네스데 가르레 대따제서 할 레비카치 뭐레.
So also when we are relaxed, it's very useful to think that, okay, the appearance that is arising through the lens of my attachment, right? Is that something that is a correct appearance or not? And also the appearance that is arising through the lens of my anger. Is that something that is in accordance with reality or not? These are all very useful.
어떤지 어떤데 와서 던지서 세 시기 전에 따제레레체 sombato ni ji sa ta kaze ta nya to na so so ke so ka re tandi chene lo na tani wo ma se te le chi do ki wo shi wo no ya chi ya re.
And also recognizing the faults in the mind and trying to diminish those, understanding their disadvantages, thinking about positive mental qualities like love and compassion, and thinking of the benefits that come when we bring those into our life. Gongda tamadi karere nganso jampa dang
Ningje kena dene.
Sisio temotona nya tiseremonia tona mutana mazelele chi doki wajin res.
Yes. And so if we are able to generate love and compassion and keep them within our mind for extended periods of time, then our life will become more and more happy.
Otan dese jato chi te tendishi res, wa. Ane chi te ta ja chenbo cheba yena. Ane soji choden zombale de penel ta chi pi je chi je sen ta halebe ja chenbo sumbara was.
So then that is the sort of briefer way of explaining the intent of this verse. And the next way, the vaster way of explaining, this involves the Buddha's vast 84,000 teachings.
Ota tino ne sumba cha chunga de, ane zo de, ane nilu tatu chi kare yina koro ne ching nine de shipi de shira de shipi de sumba yi sena, ota ne chi yanda kanga lo yala lo kondo yare.
So what it is saying that out of all of those 84,000 plus teachings of the Buddha, if we take those, we can say that they were all spoken of for the purpose of understanding the final mode of abiding of all phenomena. In other words, all of these teachings were spoken for the purpose of arising great wisdom.
Tane ta tangela ba noji tas page ta cha mambo nyole che indoas sumba to ni je shonji sela so ba teji kanga lolo shira nine de shewi te page xiayaga tian da chusa de jong ro ya che do ta lo ya ha le tu chimbo xi yares.
And the other practices are branches. So for example, if we think of the method side of the path of the practices such as love, compassion, bodhicitta, and so forth, these also are for the purpose of being able to purify, accumulate great merits, and so forth that will act as the assisting factors for the arising of wisdom.
Jitse ta ka tanging mala chi sa re la jitse chi bara was ngaro sol se ge din ne len tane ne do se ka di ina yo dinga ten de me de ge dewa chin dewa yo ares o ye yu zu la.
And so all of us, these teachings were spoken because of the very reason that all of us, whether we speak about ourselves or others, we all have this basic abiding wish, which is day and night to be able to experience a steady happiness that is completely untouched by suffering.
O te neba noji nginen de ge yo na ane leka karche gar sen chi kari ina koro ni ne ta tadu de shi shira ti ga ane ta te to ya ares.
And if we really want to be able to achieve that steady kind of happiness, what do we need to do? We need to understand what the final mode of abiding, what the way things really are, is of all objects. We need to generate the wisdom that comprehends that.
Ota tndigi ne ya bo chi sundu sono to ne gawing one to ne ya shulo ka chi ti to ne lo ju she ani ka so pa ga long ya bo chi do ani nya nyole ya bo chi to ba ga ya res.
And so understanding the import of those words, then what we want to do is, as much as possible, gong da younger sundangti?
tndigi ne ya bo chi sundu sono to ne la gabi to ne lo ju she nyole chen do ga ya res.
So understanding that this beautifully spoken advice is something very wonderful, then we want to, with a joyful mind, with a happy mind, we want to study and practice as much as possible.
는 손소로 더 봐 용추고 야는 말이 봐 강가로 간디스 센도 그래 손소 용 시 바라was.
So sometimes there may be doubts that arise, for example, thinking like, how is it really possible that we can get rid of all ignorance completely?
네서 라바 릴라워지 하고요. 빼나가로스 네서레레 하고 소나 시소나 말이 바레레 뉴르도 요아레. 근데 텔라테는 릴라와 하고 토근디 와스.
So we can use this line of reasoning. 야보코마송.
네서레레 하고 소나 사바.
Yeah.
말이 바레레 뉴르도 요아레스.
Yeah, 하고송. Yeah. So if we approach it like this, that every bit of ignorance, if we are able to understand and get rid of that specific ignorance, then we will come to an end of ignorance, then we will see how this is possible. So thank you very much. Therefore, with joyful, happy mind, please study and practice well.
Yeah, teacher.
Thanks. We'll end here.